Welcome to Daytona International Speedway for the final race of the regular season in the Darkmatter Designs Cup Series. I'm joined in the booth by Chris Speer tonight. Chris, we have 3 drivers that can still point their way in, about 7 drivers that can still win to get into the playoffs, but for 14 other drivers, their ticket's sealed, and tonight's all about positioning. What are we going to see here at Daytona?
Well, they've got it all on the line, Jared. You've got, it looks like 8 drivers, 9 drivers that really have a shot that can go out here and win and get in. There's another driver outside the top 25 in points that also could get their way in with a little bit of help. So all of these drivers, they know where they stand. They know that they have to get up here and get into position early tonight to be able to get this win. And really, Jared, that means a lot of different strategies that can be played out. A lot of guys can decide to play it safe and hang out in the back. A lot of guys can decide that the best place to be is out front. We're going to have to watch and see where these drivers land on that strategy call.
You're exactly right, Chris. Qualifying going on right now. As you see it down at the bottom, we have several drivers out here making their times. But let's take a look at those point championship standings here as we come into the night. All the drivers in gray, they're 100% in. They cannot fall out. Nothing can happen to them. These drivers will make the field. You see Brian Helm, Wayne Grossi, they are tied for 15th and 16th in points with Lane Allen just 5 points behind, and Andrew Poliski just a few more points behind them. Those 4 drivers are the only drivers eligible to make the championship round of 16 on points. If we look further back in this next group of drivers, we have Tim Bills. He is all but locked in, and Brody Hanna also is all but locked in, but a bad night for either of these drivers could see them sitting out of the playoffs. But although it would be a slim possibility, Brody Hanna 26 points above the cut line, so his is a little bit more precarious. Tim Bills 40 points above the cut line, so he is pretty much good to go here tonight. We take a look now at our race information here. Coming into Daytona. It is Daytona. It's August, so we know it's going to be hot, but it's nighttime, so it's not too bad out there tonight. 72-degree air temperature, 73 track temperature, and again, this track is the lowest track at sea level, almost at sea level, and that will be something we'll have to keep an eye on. Winds are out of the southwest at 9 miles an hour, which means they're going to be getting a tailwind, I believe, off turn 4 tonight.
That they will, Jared, and that tailwind will be great for speed, but will be very bad for handling of these cars as they'll want to bounce around a little bit more on that backstretch.
We take a look right now at the timing tower. Dean Doucette on pole, 0.03 of a second quicker than Sherwood Williford. Steven Vrooman up there, currently shown 43 drivers in the server, which means all drivers that are here will be making the field tonight, so not much to worry about as far as missing the field. Luckily, we didn't get one more, but these guys just about done with qualifying. Yes, qualifying has ended, Chris, and you look at 80 laps tonight, 2.5-mile track. We're thinking pit stops are going to be around lap 40. That's going to be pretty crucial because this is almost a fringe one-stop race.
That it is, and those drivers that are in the draft, Jared, will have a little bit of an advantage as they'll be able to save just a little bit of fuel to make that for sure one-stop race.
Exactly right, Chris. And we look at the warm-up. These drivers, we talk about the 3 drivers that have to race their way in basically here tonight. And we're actually not getting a warm-up tonight. So that's we're going straight into it, Chris. So apologies. We're going to go straight to the grid. And here we go. Let's take a look and see who's going to be on the starting lineup here. Starting off in row number 1 is Dean Doucette and Sherwood Williford there on the front row. Steven Vrooman and Dale Nearad will line up in row 2 with Brandon Elder and Bill Benedict in row 3. Great qualifying effort for Bill Benedict. Row number 4 is Bernard Persson and Brian Helm. And rounding out your top 5 rows, your top 10, Troy Torgerson and Chuck Sweeting. Troy Torgerson just announced over the weekend that he has moved to Frontline Esports. We'll get into that as the race goes on, Chris, as we look at the rest of the grid.
Row number 6 is going to be Jeff Chandler and Jeff Winter. Behind him in row number 7 is going to be Adam Newton and Andrew Poliski. Behind him in row 8 is going to be Brody Hanna and Darren Bruce. Row 9, Randy McKinney and Stephen Lumens. And row 10, Wayne Grossi and Case McMullen, Jared.
We look at the rest of the field here. Row number 11, Lane Allen, a driver that has to race his way in to get into the playoffs tonight. 5 points out. Rachel Hunt there as well. Richie Coy and Josh Johnson in row 12. Tony Solari, John Held in row 13 with Mayu, Gil Gok, Bobby Terrell, and Jason Speer. Your top 30 will round out the rest of the field, as it looks like that we are not getting an extra caution lap here. So there you see the rest of the field on your screen there, with 43rd place being all the way back there. Shotgun on the field is Darren Bruce, and does not look like he has gridded at this time. Chris, we talked about this earlier in the race. This is going to be a crucial race for a lot of drivers, and not just the drivers that have to make the field on points, but also the drivers that have to race their way in, which is, as you talked about, a lot of drivers still on that cusp and a lot of them up front.
That's true, Jared. These guys up front are looking to go ahead and get the position early and maintain it, with hopes that we have a long green flag run. But right now, we're going to go green as the pace car goes down pit lane.
Green flag is out for the final race of the regular season. Dean Doucette and Sherwood Williford will lead him down.
Good jump by Dean Doucette in that bottom groove, taking that 29 to the lead here. But Sherwood Williford on the outside with that 33 machine, going to try to power back with Dale Nearad in the 03 behind him.
43 drivers out there. Everybody kind of doing a good job midway through the pack. Things settle down very quickly as they're getting single file. The outside line not really going anywhere as Sherwood Williford has dropped all the way back to 6th place, as he is just getting left behind.
Yeah, Dale Nearad actually decided to go to that bottom groove, and as soon as he did, that all the momentum on that high groove, now Sherwood Williford is going to be battling to keep up with the bottom groove here, Jared.
Dean Doucette will lead the first lap with Vrooman and Brandon Elder, your top 3. Nearad and Person, your top 5. Brandon Elder won the season opening race at Daytona earlier this year to get himself a great win, but elected not to participate full series season this year. So that position was basically, that win basically was a wild card win. But Brandon Elder can definitely get it done here in that number 18 team. Everybody single file. Battle is all the way back. Way back, way back, and that's looks like Andrew Poliski on the outside of that Frontline Esports machine of Randy McCanny. Wayne Grossi in there. Looks like he's got some technical issues.
That he does, and one driver decided to not want to go racing in that pack. Brody Hanna actually peeled off the track and let cars go by, ended up gathering it back up in what looks to be a little second pack going on here in the lead event, but decided he didn't want to be up front early on.
There's Brody Hanna there on your screen right now. You can see how far back he is. He's kind of in that second group, right there ahead of Mark Figueroa, right behind. Looks like Matt Geringer there, but these drivers, this race has already gotten into a single file run, Chris, already.
Yeah, these drivers, Jared, they want to get out here, get a couple of laps under their belt, not have to worry about traffic and incidents early on. At this point, everyone just wants to get to that pit stop. After that, these guys will go racing hard for sure.
Dean Doucette setting the field. Chevy, Ford, and then some Toyotas behind it with a couple more Fords up front. The action hasn't changed a whole lot. We look at some drivers that have moved forward. Randall Ballard up 11 positions already in the number 56 machine. Randall runs part-time. He's had a great season when he does run. Only, I think, 11th race of the year for the 56 team, but he has moved up 11. Matt Geringer has moved up 12. So, Chris, you got some drivers moving forward, some drivers moving back. The Fury Motorsports and Coy Esports drivers, John Held, John Held and Richie Coy have dropped off the back. And then Josh Mayu also off the back, 15 spots down.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised by that. That's just a little bit of strategy that these drivers are aiming for here tonight. Look for them to be able to get themselves back up into the lead pack here before the end of the race. There, at this point, they just want to be calm and try to do that notorious Joe Gibbs, Tony Stewart, and Bobby Labonte strategy from years past.
Josh Mayu has come down pit road. Not sure. I did not see anything happen on our timing towers as far as like an incident or anything. Darren Bruce missed the start. He is back out there, already a lap down, but he is well off the back. So I don't know if there's a strategy maybe for Josh Mayu to kind of link up with him as he is leaving the pits right now. But nothing else has changed. Dean Doucette leading up front. Chris, we talked about it earlier. A lot of pressure on some drivers making the playoffs. One of those drivers, one of those teams, Wayne Grossi Racing. We got TJ Bartel out there watching and rooting on his team here tonight. And you look at Wayne Grossi, he is in 15th position, which would right now put him in the playoffs.
But right now, still early in the race, only 6 laps into this event, and Jared, a lot can happen here. We saw early on just what can happen if you get left with no momentum on the outside. You can drop positions pretty quickly. Sherwood Williford dropped 8 positions on the start. If that happens to Wayne Grossi a couple of times, he could be out of the playoffs.
Brian Helm, the other driver that is currently trying to make his way in on points, he is sitting right now in 9th position, which is a great spot for him. Lane Allen, the 3rd driver that can make it in on points, he is in 23rd, and Andrew Poliski, the 4th driver that can make it in on points, he is in 25th position. So Poliski and Lane Allen got some work to do, but Poliski getting pushed by Brody Hanna as they start to try to close this gap down, Chris. We'll bring up the track map to give you viewers at home, but this is already starting to spread out quite a bit. We have 3 different packs that have already formed, almost maybe a 4th pack up in that first pack as well.
That's true, Jared. These drivers spreading out quickly. Now it looks like Andrew Poliski and that 96 with Brody Hanna have decided they want to catch at least that second pack just to be able to be competitive speed chart-wise.
And Poliski's going to jump out to the outside. Brody Hanna and Mark Figueroa going to go by. So there he's going to jump to the back of this group. But Poliski needs the most help. He basically he doesn't have much of a shot unless there's a wreck that it takes out the other drivers that are in that points position. So he would need a lot of help. Win would definitely get him in, but he could still point his way in mathematically. We'll keep an eye on that. Up front, it's still status quo. Nothing has changed. Most of these drivers haven't even really changed positions as the race has gone on. Jeff Chandler up 3, Bernard Persson, Brandon Elder, and Troy Torgerson all up 2 within the top 10. Looking down the rest of the field, Mike Watts up 12 spots in the 3 machine, just ahead of Tony Solari. Tracy Powers up 11 spots so far, so he is doing pretty well tonight as well. Chris, we look at some of these drivers, that second group, still not making a lot of headway to try to catch up to the back of this first group. But you look at this field, Chris, is that something that can play into their hands as this race goes on, or do they really need to catch up to this first group?
Well, Jared, it's a little bit about strategy move here. If you're in that second group, you could try to get off-sequence pit stops. Now, it's a little bit harder with them making it 40 laps and with the race being 80 laps to be able to pull a strategy like that. But you could potentially save a lap of fuel. And if you're able to do that, maybe you short pit and try to get yourself out of the pits quicker than this front pack and then immediately get caught back up with them with that sequence of stops. All it really comes down to is just how and when everyone elects to come down to pits.
And Chris, we saw that earlier this week in the truck series here with Full Throttle Sim Racing. These guys very much had that strategy going on. To pit early, apologies. But you look at some of these other drivers. Wanted to touch briefly on Troy Torgerson. Troy Torgerson leaving GT Performance Sim Sport and joining Frontline Esports. That's Jeff Chandler, Jeff Winter, and Randy McCanny just in time for the playoffs in his brand new colors here tonight for that team. Chris, what do you think about that big driver move? That's a big addition for that team and a big move for Troy Torgerson.
That it is, Jared. And one thing about this is that you can see that Jeff Winter, Jeff Chandler, they've both been pretty well. Jeff Chandler certainly has been dominant in this series as far as wins go. Why wouldn't you want to go to a team that you have the opportunity to be as strong as that? Torgerson saw that and elected to go to that team just because they thought that it would be able to help him get just that much better. Also helps to have many more teammates when you're on a plate track or super speedway like Daytona and Talladega. You want as many people as you possibly can pushing you.
Yeah, and those guys also believe working with the remaining members of GT Performance Sim Sport, which I believe is just Bill Benedict at this point in this race at the very minimum. So Bill Benedict right there in 6th place doing a good job so far as we jump on board. But Chris, you look at it, I mean, these cars, they're kind of stable. We got some drivers moving around a little bit up here. But really, is this kind of the race you kind of expected out of Daytona so far? And we do have some battling toward the back of this front pack.
It's certainly not unexpected, Jared. At this point, these guys, they really all know what it's going to take to be here at the end is to be able to run single file here and to be able to just to make it there. You got Rachel Hunt on the outside. They're trying to get position number 20 from Tony Solari with a little bit of help from Lane Allen behind her. But just 2 cars on that outside lane, it's going to be tough to get around this full field, basically running the bottom lane.
Yeah, those two, Rachel Hunt and Lane Allen, those guys and gals, that gal and that guy, I should say, work together, part of Fast Turd Sim Racing and Steve Berry Racing. Those teams all kind of conglomerate together. In the distance there, Brody Hanna in that second pack is starting to close the gap down, but they have left the third pack in the dust. And that third pack is back here, I believe, way back here. Jason Speer in that pack. Randall Ballard, John Held, Richie Coy, all in this pack, Chris. This is not good news for these drivers. There's some playoff drivers and contending drivers in this pack.
Certainly, Brody Hanna is leading that second pack. They are now within 2 seconds of that lead pack. Now, what's helping them is that Rachel Hunt and Lane Allen were taking it side by side. That's slowing down that lead just a little bit, and you can actually see they are starting to fall away from the lead pack.
Yeah, you can see that right now. That's Darren Bruce that's jumped out to the outside. That's that second group, Chris, and you look at that last group. I mean, Jason Speer 10 seconds behind that second pack that Brody Hanna's leading. I mean, that's a pretty big deficit for those guys.
That it is, and with only 5 cars, Jared, it's going to be hard for them to get up here and be able to catch the field. They'll have to look for cautions to help them catch back up to that lead pack. But right now, everyone's pretty much content to just ride around here.
Brandon Elder dropping out of line. He's going to go up to the high side, drop to the back of this pack. He was running third all race, looking probably likely to pick up his Fast Turd Racing teammate Rachel Hunt there in the 16 machine. So that's probably what he is doing right now as he drops back. Brandon Elder won the season opening race of the year, if you didn't hear that earlier, in that machine. So he is going to drop back to the back of this pack.
And Jared, that is a long pack to be in the back of. That's certainly a bunch of positions there for Brandon. We said he was running third. He's going to end up, it looks like he's going to end up 20th here before everything's said and done.
He'll slot in right in front of his teammate Rachel Hunt there and on the low side there. Actually, he's going to stay ahead of him. So never mind. He's going to continue to drop back. No, he's not. Apologies. I was on the wrong camera.
It looks like he's trying to help her in that pack catch back up. Brody Hanna in that second pack now has caught Rachel Hunt and those guys to make that pack just that much bigger. Now they'll have to catch the lead pack here, Jared.
Josh Mayu and Darren Bruce, the only 2 drivers a lap down right now. Back up front, Dean Doucette has led from start all the way to lap 17, so 16 laps led for Dean Doucette. He would only need 40 to clinch the most laps led. And it looks like he was bumping up the height of the track, and I thought Steven Vrooman was going to look underneath, but Vrooman elects not to. You look behind Dean Doucette, Chris, it's a pack. I mean, you got Vrooman, you got Bill Benedict, you've got Brian Helm. Those guys haven't won yet, and they have a chance to make the playoffs with a win. Obviously, it's way too early to be aggressive yet, and Brandon Elder might have scraped the wall coming off turn number 2 as he was very out of shape in that second pack. But Chris, you look at those guys like Vrooman, what do? You waiting for that pit stop to make a move, or are you just kind of content right now?
At this point, I think they're content. I mean, really, there's no reason to get up here and be racy this early on in the race. This isn't like an official race. These guys out here, they don't need to race each other hard at this point. They know it. There's nothing on the line for a couple of these guys, as a few of them have already locked themselves into the playoffs. No need to ruin their race early and just watch everyone else. Darren
Bruce on pit road. That driver missed the start of the event. Looked like maybe some connection issues put him in a bad spot. So he has been unable to really keep going in this race. But he is on pit road. Maybe a strategy call to try to get back on the lead lap. He is out, down and away now.
Down and away, but Jared, he actually missed his pit stall as well. So lost a little bit more time there on pit road as well.
A tough break for Darren Bruce, making his 7th start. Had a great run in Michigan. Comes to Daytona looking for a little bit more, but sometimes the computer internet gods not on your side. Brandon Elder on pit road. So, Chris, I believe he may have hit the wall. And Brandon Elder down pit road after running 3rd, dropping to the back. And I believe that car might have some issues.
Yeah, he was definitely a little bit slow after hitting the wall. Everyone was blowing past him. Didn't seem like he was actually trying to get back up to speed necessarily, trying to ride around here. Maybe now get that car fixed and be back out. Maybe doing a little bit of different strategy call as some of these guys up front.
And we'll have to keep an eye on that. But right now, status quo up front as we approach the 1/4 distance, 25% of the race completed and 75% to go. Still some connection issues out of Wayne Grassi back there in the 7. See him momentarily disappear. He's got Randy McCanny just ahead of him and Jeff Winter as well. Chuck Sweeting in this mix. Adam Newton, the Xfinity winner on Thursday here at Full Throttle Sim Racing. That series not broadcasted, but Adam Newton won that race in dramatic fashion to clinch a playoff spot in that series. So Adam Newton can definitely get it done here. We look back at this kind of the second group back here, and they're starting to get disorganized, Chris.
That they are. They had to work their way around Darren Bruce, and as soon as they did, it created a lot of the issue, Jared. Now they're all discombobulated and going to have to reorganize to be able to start putting down quick lap times to catch this lead pack.
That's Donnie Staubitz there. He goes to the outside of Darren Bruce. Darren Bruce might be down on power or something, but Kevin Rupert's going to go by as well. So Darren Bruce just not having the night I think that he wanted here tonight, but doing what he can to stay out of the way. But that does kind of affect that second group as Chad Lang and those guys run about 30th position right now, looking to and that whole second group is kind of deformed into several micro groups now, Chris, because of that.
That they have. We'll have to keep an eye on it and see how these drivers are able to gather it back up. And Jared, I believe Brandon Elder actually had a connection issue.
So Brandon Elder looks like he is in the garage at the minimum, so we'll have to see what happens with the 18 machine. He's in that ride for Brian Bliss, who's undergone surgery and is not able to race in the Cup Series, dedicating his time to his playoff chase in their Xfinity Series over here at Full Throttle Sim Racing. Back up front, Dean Doucette, Vroom, and Nearad still leading, but that front group getting a little bit smaller as right now it looks like it's only 18 cars. Rachel Hunt trying to chase him back down, but that is about a 1 second gap, 1.5 second gap between those two groups.
But they're certainly catching them. Rachel Hunt is closing in on Michael Hunt down to 1 second, whereas last lap it was 1.3 seconds. So that second group is certainly catching the group ahead of them.
Rachel Hunt, Lane Allen, those guys basically teammates there. Tracy Powers, Ralph Nolan, who won a dramatic race in New Hampshire to punch his playoff ticket. He's in this group as well. Tony Solari, Brody Hanna, Mark Figueroa, Gil Gock, Zach McDaniel, and Bobby Terrell, the regular season champion, all in this group. Then we have a little bit more of a gap back to Chad Lang, who is chasing them back down with Donnie Staubitz, Kevin Rupert, Kenneth Schultz, James Torrey, and Andrew Poliski. As we said earlier, Poliski is the only driver in that group that can still point his way into the points. Schultz needs a big win and some helps. Rupert needs a win. Staubitz is eliminated. Chad Lang needs a win. Gil Gock eliminated. So we got a lot of different scenarios going on right now, Chris.
That we do. And interestingly enough, Rachel Hunt and these guys, they are there, Jared.
And that second group has caught up. But unfortunately, you look behind Mark Figueroa. Zach McDaniel was there. Zach McDaniel dropped off the back. That includes Bobby Terrell in that group. So that we've got a first group, and then we've got a second group, a third group, and the fourth group, which is about 20 seconds back now at this point, or 15 seconds back.
And you mentioned Zach McDowell and that 42 machine. They had a little bit of a side-by-side action as these drivers were trying to get themselves sorted. And I think that's kind of what slowed them down a little bit, not able to be as tight as Rachel Hunt. And it looks like we've got someone still blinking back here connection-wise. I believe that's James Torrey in the 2.
James Torrey in the 2. And that will also hurt the draft for those drivers in this pack. It looks like Darren Bruce is the last driver in that group. right now. But that's something to keep an eye on as the race goes on. Now, Chris, you look at Daytona, it's become kind of, everybody's kind of feeling everything out. Nobody really races until after that first pit stop for the most part. Nothing really happens until that first pit stop. But what are you doing in this time period? When you're out there riding around, are you talking to your team, trying to figure out what strategy you've got? What do you need to do to get a win? What is kind of going on inside the mind of the driver right now during this kind of lull period?
Certainly within the next 5 laps, you're going to start talking to those around you, figuring out when they want to pit, trying to figure out who's going to pit with you so that way you don't end up all alone and lose the draft entirely. But also, Jared, you're talking to your teammates in your team chats as well, just getting to figure out where they think that people are slower at, who's got the ill-handling car. Even the pack racing like we have right now with them being single file, you can kind of get an idea of what these drivers are dealing with as far as setups and handling on these cars. It may be just a small portion to Daytona and Talladega, but handling, especially at these night tracks, still matters.
Got several drivers with some connection issues. Troy Torgerson blinking out as well in this front group. And this is, for some of these drivers, they're locked in, but this is the worst race you could have, I think, to have a connection issue, because it can cause a big issue. And sometimes the driver blinking out doesn't even know that they have an issue, which is even the worst part, because, just the way it goes. Zach McDaniel has been shuffled out of the lead of that second group. Bobby Terrell to the point now as that group trying to make something happen and move forward, but is continuing to lose time.
And they certainly will now that they've had to shuffle Zach McDaniel out of the lead here. Now Bobby Terrell is going to have to try to get back up to Mark Figueroa in that number 04 car. But that's going to be a tall order to be able to get up there, Jared. These guys are pretty much 3 seconds back from your leader. So it is certainly a hard, 3 seconds away from Figueroa, actually. So they've got almost 4 seconds. It's a huge hole to be making up. And you're not going to be able to do that without running tightly with one another.
25 cars in the first group. Then we look back. The second group is from 26th to 33rd. The third group is from 34th. Is just 3 cars, so they've dropped off that group. That's Poliski, Geringer, and Jeff Bratton. They have dropped off Zach McDaniel, so that's not good news for Andrew Poliski. And then the last group is Jason Speer, Richie Coy, John Held, and Randall Ballard. 2 of those drivers are playoff clinched drivers. Richie Coy and Jason Speer are in. 2 of those drivers have nothing to race for. They cannot make the playoffs. So this group kind of in a weird position right now, but they are 20 seconds, or actually 30 seconds off the pace right now, about almost a half a lap down at this point, Chris.
That they are, and Jason Speer thought that he was not good enough to lead that pack back up to the third pack. So he decided to bail and fall in line here. That's going to move him back into the 39th position here with these 5 cars. But, Jared, it's really impossible to catch up unless there's going to be any kind of caution here quickly. Yeah,
when you're that far back, you are pretty much at the mercy of a caution at that point. From what I understand, some of those drivers back there have had some connection issues tonight and have elected to go back there. Richie Coy is one of those drivers, so it is possible that they are just doing that out of safety more than anything, but I don't think all of those drivers are back there for that reason. But right now we look up front. Again, Dean Doucette continued to lead. We look at this playoff picture, Chris, and you got to, just looking at the race on Saturday night in the Real Cup Series race, how intense that was. How intense is it for Lane Allen, Wayne Grossi, and Brian Helm, knowing that your race, your season is dictated by a crazy race, and we've got pit stops as the GT Performance and Frontline Esports drivers down pit road. Benedict, Torgerson, Chandler all coming down right now, along with McCanny, Winter, and Grossi.
And there you have it, the first round of pit stops by these drivers. This is a little bit of a smart move by these guys, going ahead and getting it done early. But, Jared, that for sure means these drivers are expecting to make 2 stops here tonight.
2 stops. And Dean Doucette leading is definitely not going to be able to stretch to 1 stop. But they are, I have heard some drivers say that they might be able to stretch it out. We look at the pit out positions for these drivers, and there they go right now. They are leaving the pit road. And the group, that last group, they are not going to be able to make it through before these other drivers get down pit road. But, Chris, nobody else coming down.
Interesting move. These drivers are going to come out about 4 seconds in front of your leader by the time they catch up to speed. But one thing that did was it kind of separated that lead group, Jared. Now we have a 3-car pack, a 1-car pack, and then another 4-car pack behind them. That's helped that second group be able to close in on our lead pack here.
There's Dean Doucette. He's going to go around Wayne Grossi. So that's Dale Nearad, Stephen Vrooman, and Dean Doucette. They separated out to a 1-second advantage, and they're going to mix in with this Frontline Esports group right here. And Dale Nearad looks like he's going to come in pit road. That's a risky call. Brian Helm also in. Bernard Person. So it looks like the Speer Motorsports drivers all in. Couple lockouts from some of those drivers. Also Mike Watts in as well. Gil Gach, Chad Lang, Donnie Staubitz, Bobby Terrell, Andrew Poliski with the deep pit road entry. He's on pit road. So is James Torrey. So we got some pit stops happening now, Chris.
That we do, Jared. These drivers now doing everything they can to get on and off of pit road safely. You can see the locked up tires that we talked about there. But now, looking up front, it looks like Dean Doucette was able to get around at a couple of these drivers. And now he only has, it looks like, one other driver in this top pack that is on the same strategy as him.
Still don't see anybody else coming down pit road from that group. No, looks like everybody's going to stay out this time around. Donnie Staubitz in that group. Chad Lang, Gil Gach all leaving pit road now, along with Bobby Terrell. So Dean Doucette really flying through this. Chris, he only has to do 6 more laps. Is that something that somebody's got to be stretching, has to be thinking, I can stretch this thing? Somebody has to, surely, right?
Certainly, there's got to be drivers out here thinking that Dean Doucette's probably going to be the hardest one to be able to do that, as he's been out front this whole time. However, he could have been able to save when he was catching these lap cars, just letting off. We'll have to follow along to see what his strategy ends up being, but not pitting this lap, Jared.
Now, the other thing I want to bring up, Chris, he is separated from his teammates. His next teammate is Lane Allen, 2 seconds back, and Rachel Hunt. Is that a bad thing as well when you're kind of separated out and now you're in with drivers that aren't pitting? Randy McCanney, Jeff Winter, Mike Watts, Wayne Grossi, those guys aren't pitting.
Well, it's certainly a bad thing. At this point, you can actually see he's pulling down to the apron, letting these guys go by on the outside, connecting with Vrooman. Looks like they're going to be coming this time, Jared. Right now, the only person he's got with him is Vrooman. So he's going to have to pit with Vrooman to make sure they can even be somewhat similar catching up to a draft with these drivers.
The last group, the group that was about 20 seconds off the pace, is on pit road right now. Richie Coy, John Held, Jason Speer, Randall Ballard all electing to come in together. Smart move by those guys. Looked like maybe Randall Ballard might have spun or slid going into his pit box. So we'll have to see if he's going to be able to come out with this group. Dean Doucette lets those Frontline Esports drivers go, Randy McCanney and Jeff Winter. So he is definitely trying to save some fuel, Chris, I think, because he's going to get that draft now.
That he is, and it's certainly an advantage to being behind those drivers. But is it too little, too late? We'll have to find out here. I thought he was coming for sure last lap. Now he's caught up with Vrooman. Maybe they'll pit this lap. Otherwise, I think it's worth it to at least try to make it to lap 39.
19 drivers haven't pitted. Here comes Dean Doucette and Stephen Vrooman now, first and second on pit road. Oh, Dean Doucette looked awfully quick there, Chris. I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on Dean Doucette. Everybody else following him in. The only five drivers haven't pitted. Now, other drivers coming in. Looks like Sherwin Williford, Chuck Sweeting, all on pit road. Casey McMullen, Lane Allen, Rachel Hunt, Ralph Nolan Jr., all on pit road. So that leaves us with 10 drivers that have not pitted yet. And that's Johnson leading in just his third race. We saw him at Michigan have a great run. He is now the lead driver here. These drivers, they were off the front pack a little bit, Chris. And I wonder if they're the ones we have to watch for a one-stop strategy, because we're right on the line.
And Dean actually did get the black flag for speeding on pit road. He's stuck on pit road as everyone has left now, Jared.
And it looked awfully quick to me, Chris, and I didn't want to jinx him, but I think that was already done because Dean Doucette with the penalty. Geringer and Jeff Bratton for Havoc Sim Sports, they're on pit road right now. So those drivers making their call. But these 5 drivers, Chris, they only have to make one more lap around here, and they can make it on one stop.
One more lap, Jared, and these drivers, they've been back in the back of the pack just conserving. They've been smart about it. I mean, that's one thing that really is going to make them stand out from everyone else. And you know that that's what they were planning to do from the start. And they're still pretty fast.
And they also had the advantage of catching the draft of Lane Allen, Rachel Hunt as well. They have just come off of pit road. So here's lap 39. That means that they pit next time by. That's 40 laps. They can do it on one stop. But, you know, in my opinion, Chris, I would stay out as long as I could. That way I have a little bit less fuel on the back end that I have to stretch for.
And you bring up a good point. Just because you have enough fuel to get to the end doesn't mean that you're going to have enough fuel to get through a green-white checkered here. If we have one, Jared, that could put a monkey wrench into every one of these drivers' plans, as at this point you're hoping that it goes green the rest of the way.
Give some props to Josh Johnson. He becomes the second leader of the night after Dean Doucette dominated the first 37 laps. Unfortunately, if you're just now joining us, Dean Doucette speeding on pit road. Here comes the drivers we were just talking about, all on pit road right now. Josh Johnson leads them in. Brody Hanna, one of the most aggressive on pit road. What a job he does. Tracy Powers may have hit the cone, Chris.
Tracy Powers definitely got the cone going into the pits. Have to watch to see if he gets the penalty. But the 57 slid through the box. Tracy Powers.
74. Everybody's.
74. Every one of these drivers slid through their box. This is going to throw a terrible wrench into their plan.
Kevin Rupert, Kenneth Schultz, Mark Figueroa, Zach McDaniel also part of this group. And Zach McDaniel is just not getting his service done. But my guess is that this is going to really hamper this group because there was about 8 cars in that pack, and I think only about 3 or 4 of them are going to leave together. Dale Nearad is coming through with a head of steam through the tri-oval. He's going to retake the lead, but we know or we think he has to pit one more time. So everything's cycling through. Brody Hanna, that is unfortunate that everybody that he basically pitted with, I believe, had problems. And Brody Hanna didn't have that good of a stop. 16.4, kind of the slowest pit time. Not a bad pit lane time, but a slow pit time. So Brody Hanna's going to come out right ahead of Rachel Hunt, kind of right where they were before. But this is not going to be what Brody Hanna needed, I don't believe, to try to pick up a W tonight.
No, it is not. And you caught it. Tracy Powers still on pit road. He definitely got that penalty.
Tracy Powers, unfortunate. He was a driver that needed a must-win. With that strategy, could have maybe done it. Dean Doucette about to go a lap down. He was the leader, dominated this race, but unfortunately he is going to drop to the back here shortly, I would think, as the leaders are now have caught him. They might have liked to stay behind him, though, because Dean Doucette's got a fast car. Nope, they're going to go around him, it looks like.
But this will give Dean Doucette the opportunity to blend in with these drivers and try his best to stay that first car one lap down, just so that way he can get that lap back if we have a caution.
So everything is cycled out. Dean Doucette, the first car one lap down, back in 39th position. But Chris, the one thing through all those pit stops, Brian Helm, also a speeding penalty. He's a driver that needs to make it in on points or win the race. He is in 37th position, Chris.
We talk about it all season long, Jared, about these penalties and not having driver errors. And that's what we're seeing here out of a couple of these drivers. When the pressure is on, you can't let it go to your head like that, or you'll make simple mistakes like these drivers have. Yeah,
and he is about to be caught by the big pack as well. So every little thing happened. And Brian Helm did not have a penalty. He actually, I'm getting indication he did not have a penalty. It looks like he just had a pit road issue that cost him some time. But Brian Helm, nonetheless, 37th, was in the top 10. You look at these other drivers, and Brian Helm about to be caught by his teammate Dale Nearad and Adam Newton right now. And they're going to latch onto the back of Brian Helm, it looks like.
And that's bad news for Dean Doucette, as he wants to be able to get up there and make sure he stays in front of Brian Helm. But at this point, as long as Brian Helm stays in front of Dale Nearad, he'll have no worries. He will still be the first car on one lap down, and will be eligible for the lucky dog if we have a caution. But now Brian Helm on the tail end here got to stay in front of his teammate, the 03 of Dale Nearad. Well,
that works out big time for Wayne Grossi, who's in 11th place, and Lane Allen, who is in 15th place, because right now they are in the playoffs no matter what, because Brian Helm running way back there. Andrew Poliski, our other playoff driver, let's check in on the 96 machine. And Andrew Poliski not having a great pit stop himself, caught one lap down back in 41st position. So Poliski's chances of pointing his way in, if he does not get back on the lead lap, are pretty much done at this point, Chris.
The good news for Poliski, though, is that he's in this lead group. He's actually the 6th car in line, and that's actually helping him. He just needs to be able to figure out a way to get Dean Doucette behind him.
Also, Josh Mayu and Tracy Powers are in this that equation as well. Tracy Powers comes out 39th after his penalty. Mark Figueroa out there as well, one lap down. We got the last driver on the lead lap right now is Randall Ballard. He is about to be caught. And these guys were part of that last group that was about 30 seconds behind the leaders anyway. So we knew that they were going to be caught pretty soon. Randall Ballard's going to move to the high side, and that's going to leave us with 34 drivers on the lead lap, James Torrey being the last one.
And you can see the pack now going around Randall Ballard. That's something that helps Brian Helm, because that's another position that he'll make up on those drivers he's battling with in points.
James Torrey and Richie Coy are at the start-finish line now. They also have Jason Speer and John Held. So that last group, they did lose 2 drivers from that little pack, but overall they have been able to stay together and still out there racing. But they are 4 cars against about 11, so I think they're going to be caught sooner than later. There they go down the back straightaway, and you watch, and Dale Nearad not quite in the screen just yet.
Well, and we see Jason Speer is leading that pack, Jared. And earlier on, he was not able to help get these guys back up front. So it'll be interesting to see if he elects to fall back like he did earlier.
Playoff eligibility in the top 5. Adam Newton not eligible. Dale Nearad and Bernard Persson have both won. They are in the playoffs, as indicated by the gray bars on their names. Steven Vrooman, he needs a win no matter what. So does Bill Benedict. Jeff Chandler not eligible for the playoffs. Torgerson, McCanny, and Winter, we know they're in. And Wayne Grossi could be in on points if everything finished as we are now. Mike Watts not eligible. Sure, Williford needs a win. Chuck Sweeting not eligible. That's your top running order right now, Chris.
And those drivers up front here are starting to close in on the group that we just mentioned of Jason Speer. You can kind of see there's actually another car that they're about to catch a little bit sooner, and I believe that is going to be James Torrey.
No, it's Josh Mayu. It looks like he just came off pit road. Yes, that is Josh Mayu in the 0-2. So he just came off pit road, and he is about to go another lap down, it looks like.
So and the more drivers that they can add to this pack, the sooner they'll be able to close up on that last pack of Jason Speer and those group of drivers. They want to catch them as quickly as they can to put them more laps down. But Dean Doucette's hoping that they don't catch them at all.
I want to focus in on those drivers that pitted on basically lap 40. Brody Hanna, Josh Johnson there, and in this group, back here in 19th and 21st positions respectively. They could be the wild cards in this race. They are 11 seconds off the pace, but remember, neither of these drivers have to make another pit stop. So even though Josh Johnson had not a great pit stop, he was able to come out with Brody Hanna, unlike the other drivers in that group. That second group of drivers that pitted, Chris, Kenneth Schultz, Kevin Rupert, Tony Solari, Zach McDaniel, not great pit stops by any of those drivers, and they are actually 7 seconds behind Brody Hanna and Josh Johnson in a 8 or 9 car pack back there. So going to need some help if you're in that group.
They certainly are. But the key here, Jared, is whether or not we end up going green the rest of the way. In that group that pitted on lap 40, leading it is Bobby Terrell in the number 5 machine. He's already locked into the playoffs. Behind him, he's got Chad Lang and Brody Hanna. Brody Hanna also in the playoffs, but at this point, Jared, these guys can take the risk like they are right now just to try to ride around here. There's nothing really on the line for them tonight.
Brody Hanna still a fringe chance of falling out of the playoffs now. With Tracy Powers being trapped a lap down and some issues for Kenneth Schultz, he is looking better and better as the race goes on, but he only came in 26 points above the 25th place cut line, which determines eligibility. But I'm sure he'd be happy with 19th place because that would guarantee his spot. And like you said earlier, Bobby Terrell, he did pit on 32, so he was one of the early takers to pit road, Chris, which means we could see them as early as about 14 laps from now.
That we can, Jared, and that'll show us at that point we'll start getting a feel for who's going to try to make it to the end and who is not. And we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Certainly an interesting strategy here, and a few drivers really looking to make this work with one stop. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to do so and able to stay in front of the guys that end up hitting. It's really hard to make this strategy work unless you have a lot of different guys on the same strategy as you. And it looks like there's now 7 drivers that are on that same strategy.
Chris, I wanted to check in on Rachel Hunt and Lane Allen and Casey Mullen. Two of these three drivers finished second and third. Lane Allen and Casey Mullen back at Daytona the first time around. And those two drivers plus Brandon Elder linked up to walk away from the field, and they linked up again. They were about 3.5 seconds behind this big pack, and they've been able to chase them down and catch back up. So that's going to add 3 more drivers to the main pack of 16, plus I think about 5 lap cars in that group as well. But that's not good news for Bobby Terrell, as that second group is 10 seconds back now.
And Rachel Hunt is electing to go out on that outside line with Lane Allen in the 14, just trying to see if they can get an opportunity to get a run. Not able to make it work, but now Sherwood Williford saw it. He's going to jump on the outside with that 33 as well to give them a little bit of draft.
It looks like he may have gone back in line. He did. We also have some connection driver dropping out ahead of them. That looked like maybe Wayne Grossi. Yeah, it is Wayne Grossi there.
And Jared, we mentioned it before that when you have that little bit of droppage for that driver, that actually puts a completely different air sensation on the car behind them, which can certainly make the car handle just a little bit worse. So have to keep an eye on that number 3 machine of Mike Watts and see if that is impacting his race at all.
Well, that's going to affect Chuck Sweeting, because Chuck Sweeting dropped off the back. Sure, Williford moved up to catch up on Rachel Hunt. Now, he is all by himself at the bottom, so he is kind of at the mercy at this point of these guys going by him. And that is a battle back there for about 12th position. You got to be careful because you don't want to lose time to that group ahead of them, and they did not. They did it pretty much perfectly. Rachel Hunt still trying to keep Lane Allen out there. They're not getting around Chuck Sweeting very quickly. Sweeting, it looks like he's going to disrupt that. Sure, Williford, though, moving around on the outside by himself.
Getting it done. Just got a great run on the 3. Was able to jump to the outside there. Problem is, Jared, he doesn't have any help unless Sweeney's going to hop up there and help him. Now he's going to fall back. Sweeney's going to retake his position on Sherwood Williford, and now they'll get single file again.
So that move on the outside didn't work out. Chuck Sweeting was able to hold his position and hold on right now. And you look ahead at all these other drivers, Chris. I mean, this is kind of what we expect from Daytona, but a little bit, it all comes down to mistakes. It's something you talked about last week in your keys to the race. Same thing this week. Don't make mistakes.
Absolutely, Jared. We've already seen a handful of drivers make theirs early on. Now, as we come closer to these pit stops here in about another 6 laps, as when they should start to happen again, it'll be the same deal. It'll be the money stop, Jared. These drivers, they can't afford to make a mistake, especially those that have already made one.
And that would include Brian Helm and Dean Doucette, who are both in the top 10 before pit stops and are now out. Randall Ballard has pulled his car to the garage. Brandon Elder to the garage. Darren Bruce, the last driver running in 41st. So out of 43 drivers, 41 still running, and we have not had any cautions if you're just now joining us here tonight. And we are 55 laps through the race. This is a little bit shorter race, obviously, because it's the 400-mile variety of Daytona, not the 500-mile variety. So a little bit shorter race, so it's going a little bit quicker. But if you're Brian Helm, you might want some more laps tonight.
Certainly he does. I mean, he is leading this pack, Jared, but he is on the tail end of the lead lap with his teammate behind him. It'd be a lot different story if you were out front.
Right now, 34 drivers on the lead lap, about 10 seconds from Brian Helm to James Torrey. So I don't think that they're going to get to James Torrey before the pit stops come up, but it is possible. That last group is John Held, Jason Speer, Richie Coy, and James Torrey. A couple of those drivers with some connection issues tonight. Maybe all of those drivers with some connection issues, unfortunately. 30th place is Zach McDaniel. He is running in that third group with Tony Solari, Kevin Rupert, Kenneth Schultz, and Donnie Staubitz. In that group, Kevin Rupert and Kenneth Schultz, only two eligible for a chance at the playoffs with a victory. They would need a victory to get in. Then we move up to the second group. That's Jeff Bratton at the tail end of that. Good run for Jeff Bratton. He was fastest in practice tonight, Chris. But he is hanging on to the back part of this group, just trying to wait for his opportunity. Looking up through the rest of this group, Matt Geringer in there, Stephen Loomis in there, making a return back to the Cup Series. Good to see Steve back out here. Josh Johnson and Brody Hanna.
Happening now.
And there we go. As we see him, it's the Blackwater Steve Berry group on pit road. And Lane Allen, Rachel Hunt, Case McMullen, Sher Williford, all on pit road. This is their last scheduled pit stop. So, Chris, that answers your question from earlier. These drivers are going to have to make another stop. And now the key is really in Brody Hanna and Josh Johnson's hands.
And we talked about keeping mistakes to a minimal. Unfortunately, Jared, Rachel Hunt and Lane Allen both made a mistake on their pit stop, sliding through their box. That's going to cost them a little bit of time.
Lane Allen did make up for it. It must have taken just enough fuel because 8.8 seconds. So good stop for Lane Allen. Sher Williford and Case McMullen way done ahead of him. They actually are about 8 seconds ahead of Lane Allen and Rachel Hunt. So, Chris, that's going to kill them right there.
Certainly is, Jared, as these drivers now will be all alone out here as they enter the track. Draft is going to be a huge issue here with these drivers, and really it is going to be a hard-fought battle to be anywhere near them. As you can see, Dale Nearad and that lead group are already passing them.
There's Dale Nearad coming by right now. Dean Doucette also pitted with that group. He was a lap down, but part of that organization as well. Looking back a little bit further, it looks like maybe Randy McCanny might be positioning for a pit stop here. Yes, he is. And so is so it looks like the GT Performance and Frontline Esports drivers coming in now. Benedict through the grass. That might be a penalty. I don't know if he was able to get in around the commit cone, but we're going to find out. Bill Benedict, that could be huge for a driver that needs to win to get in.
That it will, Jared, and he certainly hit the cone going through the grass there, and it definitely looks like it will be a penalty for that machine.
So we'll keep an eye on the lead group. Chris will let us know if there's a penalty for Bill Benedict. I believe it is a penalty. As the pit lane time, yeah, it's a penalty. Look at just based on the pit lane time. Tough break for Bill Benedict.
Certainly, everyone else in that group took 2 tires only, Jared.
First group still staying out. Wayne Grossi and Mike Watts for Wayne Grossi Racing coming in. Mike Watts a little bit hot, not too bad though. So those two drivers, they have to be mistake-free because there's only 2 of them, Chris.
Only 2 of them, and Jared, I don't know that that's going to be a race-winning move by being only 2 drivers to come out of here. I don't think you'll be able to hang on to this lead pack as they're catching.
So Dale Nearad in this lead group, there is a couple lap drivers in there, but that lead group is 5 lead lap cars, 2 or 3 lap down drivers there as well. 2 lap down drivers, apologies. So that's going to be interesting to see what this goes on here. The wild card in all this front group is Steven Vrooman, who needs a win to get in. The second group is led by Bobby Terrell. He's going to have to pit pretty soon, but Brody Hanna doesn't have to pit, we think. So it's going to be interesting to see what the strategy play is for these drivers in this second group.
And Jared, we talked about strategy and about how these drivers like Brody Hanna are going to be able to make it to the end. At this point, you're asking the 5 and the 4 to stay out as long as they possibly can, because as long as you can stay in their draft, you can save a little bit of fuel here at this super speedway. Just pleading with Bobby Terrell in that 5 and Chad Lang in the 4 to stay out as long as they can so that you can keep saving.
On board Brody Hanna. Doesn't sound like he's clutching or anything like that. I know that I did that in a couple races this week, and it did save me a little bit of time. But I don't hear any out of the Brody Hanna machine. Dale Nearad and company still staying out. Still keeping an eye on this second group. Yep, nobody is coming in pit road from that group. We'll look at the third group as they come around. Powers, Staubitz in that group. Looks like everybody's staying out as well. So, Chris, this is a big moment in the race. If you're a driver trying to get in the playoffs, if you're a driver that is in the playoffs, And if you're a driver that has to win, this is about the crunch time of the race. Because right now, if a caution comes out, Wayne Grossi is a lap down and would not be the first driver. Or apologies, he would be the first driver a lap down, but this could send the whole race into a different dichotomy if this if a caution comes out right now.
That it will, Jared. And these drivers, they've been here before. They knew to expect this green flag style racing that we're seeing here tonight. I believe our season opener here only ended up with one caution, Jared. That's going to make things all that more interesting, as you knew going into it that maybe track position was going to be a little bit more critical.
Yeah, the first race, caution on lap 1 after a driver missed the shift and unfortunately took out a few drivers. But after that, green flag from that point on. Brian Helm touches the apron there and shoots up the track. That luckily had a teammate behind him, as he was very out of control there. Chris looking,
and that's the benefit of having a teammate behind him, and he's still going a little bit high. Dylan Nerad is letting off to not get around this number 26 machine.
And that could be part of the strategy move, but right now we have 31 drivers on the lead lap. Drivers a lap down include both drivers that are in the playoff points battle, Wayne Grossi and Lane Allen. Brian Helm is the last driver on the lead lap, so if a caution comes out right now, this would be bad news for Lane Allen because he'd be trapped a lap down. Obviously, he'd probably get a wave around at this point, and that would help him out, but this would definitely not help him in the quest to get points. But right now, this front group, still nobody making a move to pit road yet, Chris.
No, and I don't think we'll see it for about another 3 laps here. That'll be equal distance from their last pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see what these drivers do. I'm assuming that we're going to see either 2 tires or fuel only here for this next stop.
Looks like we got Bobby Terrell, Chad Lang, Gil Gach, all coming down pit road. Matt Geringer, Jeff Bratton from that second group. Ralph Nolan as well. So Brody Hanna and Josh Johnson still out there. They are the 2 drivers that stretching their fuel. We think they are the only 2 drivers that can make it. Josh Johnson got up right on Brody Hanna, and looks like Brody Hanna's going to let him go by. I don't know if that was intended or what happened there, but we didn't get a good view of it, but that was definitely a scary moment for those 2 drivers. Don't want to wreck each other when you have this advantage on the field. And Chris, I don't know what's going on with Brody Hanna, but he has dropped off. Something has happened to the 23 machine here. 171 miles an hour, Chris. And it looks like he's catching up to this third pack, I think, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what his idea was. This pack isn't of any importance to him. He'll still be the leader, even if they get around him, if this works out. So I think he's trying to blend in here so he can save more fuel.
Well, Kenneth Schultz and Kevin Rupert also pitted on this lap. So did Tony Solari and Zach McDaniel. Some of those drivers are not eligible. Tony Solari, Zach McDaniel, not eligible. Schultz and Rupert would have to win to get in. So it's going to be interesting. Very interesting. But we think most of these drivers in this second group can make it on fuel to the end. Dale Neerad and company still staying out. 13 laps to go here at Daytona.
And looking at Brody Hanna's car there, Jared, he does have now some damage to that right rear of that machine. Not terrible, but he's certainly got some damage.
And I just wonder if maybe there was a miscommunication. Maybe Brody was saying, hey, I'm going to drop off and drop to the back. Maybe Josh Johnson didn't hear it. That's the only thing I can think of that would happen. Very strange circumstance. We didn't catch all of what happened there, so definitely don't want to pass any judgments on what was going on. I've lost Josh Johnson on my screen, though, Chris, unless I'm blind. No, he is in. He decided to pit, Chris. So Josh Johnson has come down pit road, and we thought he could make it. So Go ahead.
Up front, though, Dale Neerad still leads the pack with the 03 behind his teammate Brian Held, who's just trying to stay with this group in hopes of for a caution, Jared. But now you're looking at these guys are going to be stopping here within the next lap or so, I would believe, and they're trying to short pit it and just take fuel as now Neerad comes to pit road.
Neerad, Newton, Vrooman, all locking up back there. That's Chuck Sweeting. He gets to slow down. Everybody looks like they are pretty good on entry because this could be a big move for some of these drivers trying to get on pit road here. Donnie Staubitz would be the next driver we're thinking that would come down pit road. He needs to pit. And the 99 car, it's a lonesome feeling as he is the only one from that group coming down pit road.
And Jared, fuel only stop for those drivers that just padded. Dale Neurad just barely going to come out in front of Neurad. They are side by side trying to get up to speed.
This is going to change a lot of stuff, Chris, because there was a couple scenarios coming into the race that could change the whole entire playoff picture. One of those scenarios is Kenneth Schultz leading this race. He is a driver that's outside of the points right now. 11 laps to go. He has to make it on fuel right now because Tracy Powers, the driver in front of him, is all the way back in 31st position. Kenneth Schultz will be in the top 25, and if he wins the race, he'd be going to the playoffs.
We said early on that he needed some help here tonight, and right now he's creating his own luck by being out here on this strategy, leading this field. Now the problem is that you have all these drivers behind you that they're going to want to take the win away. So going to be a hard fought battle here. As now you've got another machine in front of Tracy Powers here. That is the 85 machine, and that's going to make things just all that more hard for Kenneth Schultz. As now you'll have to block runs from guys behind you while also having guys in front of you.
So Kenneth Schultz is leading. If the race ends now, he would be in the playoffs in the top 25. His teammate Kevin Rupert hasn't won either. He needs a win to get in the playoffs himself. Tony Solari in third. He hasn't won, but is not eligible for playoffs. Can't get enough points to get in the top 25. So if he wins, it would not affect the playoff picture at all. Brody Hanna, he needs to stay 26 points ahead of Kenneth Schultz or Tracy Powers in order to stay in the top 25. That looks like that's going to be a successful mission at this point in time. Zach McDaniel not eligible for the playoffs. Would love to get a win. He's in 5th place. That's your top 5. That's one group. Everybody else you see on your screen is a lap down or more that's part of this pack. Your second group.
You said something that's actually interesting about Kenneth Schultz. He's got his teammate Kevin Rupert behind him. The problem is that Rupert needs to also win to get into the playoffs. Will you push your teammate to victory to get them into the playoffs, or will you pass them to get into the playoffs yourself? This is going to be a wild finish between these two teammates.
That last group, Richie Coy, John Held, Jason Speer, all coming on pit road right now. So Gil Gach leading this pack with Tracy Powers just ahead of him. That is a battle for 32nd position. We think Tracy Powers can make it, at least by virtue of that penalty. I think he's pretty safe right now. But that second group, Chris, that is led by Jeff Chandler now. So if something happens to these drivers that can't make it on one stop, Jeff Chandler, Troy Torgerson, Dale Neurad, Steven Vrooman, that next group up. And they are about 11 seconds back now. 8 laps to go.
And as we run along here, this lead group are going to be adding cars to their collection, as the next car they'll catch is the 23rd position of Donnie Staubitz in the 99 machine.
So Donnie Staubitz right now, there he is on the bottom. Tough position to be in because he is going to stay on the bottom, it looks like. And if I was Kenneth Schultz, I'd let off and I'd just let them do their thing in front of you and stay there. It looks like that's what he's going to do. And this is going to be interesting. What is Kevin Rupert going to do? And the more interesting question, Chris, can they make it on fuel? Because technically their pit lap was lap 39, so they are definitely close on fuel, I would say.
That they are, but with these 3 cars in front of them, they're able to save just that much more fuel. You can kind of see it there with Kenneth Schultz. He's letting out of it, letting those 3 cars kind of break away, and then using the draft to catch them back up. Don't know if that's a plan that I would be going with, Jared. I think I would just try to get as close as I can and just get off the throttle. But who knows? We'll have to see if it works for him as we're coming to 5 laps to go this next time by.
Breaking down your playoff picture, Kenneth Schultz would be in right now, but it's not by much. But he would be in at this current time. But that means with him being in the playoffs, that means that there's only one spot available for a point driver. So right now that would be going to Brian Helm. Some great pit strategy, but he's got Wayne Grossi right behind him and Lane Allen right behind him. 18th, 19th, and 20th. But Lane Allen, he is 5 points out, so he needs to be ahead of these guys. Helm and Grossi are tied. If they finish tied, it goes to top 5s. It goes to wins first. They don't have wins. Lane Allen going to make a move by himself on the outside, though. He knows he needs 5 positions. And this is where the battle is. We'll keep an eye on Kenneth Schultz, but one of these three drivers on your screen, Helm, Grassi, or Lane Allen, will make it in on points if everything stays the way it does right now. Right now, that position would be to Brian Helm because of tiebreakers, as he is tied with Wayne Grassi. Chris, you can feel the tension rising in the track right now.
That you can. These drivers are trying to do the math in their head, or have people acting as spotters telling them exactly how many positions they need to make up to be able to make it in on the playoffs. And that's just going to continue to ramp up as we're coming now on 4 laps to go.
4 laps to go. Is there anything else left to give in this race? We have seen it all as this race has gone on. And Chris, this is about as much drama as you can get. As we talked about earlier, Brian Helm has dropped. If I'm not mistaken,
He's on pit road. He's on pit road, Jared.
And that is not good. Brian Helm is on pit road. And maybe he had not pitted, Chris. But I'm pretty sure he did pit.
Well, he's going to have the opportunity to try to hop up behind these cars. Nope, not even going to have enough speed to get up to speed to catch the group that just went by him. So certainly going to hurt his playoff chances.
That might end Brian Helm's chance at the playoffs. Wayne Grassi would hold that position right now. Lane Allen needs to beat Wayne Grassi by 5 positions. He owns the tiebreaker if they finish tied. So there we go. The Blackwater guys getting in line and pushing him to the front. Up front, though, we got a battle for the lead. Tony Solari to the lead. And Kenneth Schultz and Kevin Rupert, Chris, while that was going on back there, they couldn't make it on fuel. They had to pit.
Had to pit. Now, Tony Solari up front leading, but right behind him, Brody Hanna, who we thought had damage earlier and maybe not be able to keep speed, running second with his fuel strategy. Behind him, McDaniel in that 42 machine. He must win to get in. This is going to be an interesting race. Now he's got to be the aggressive driver to be able to get up front here to hopefully claim a win. You know,
Chris, I look at that and I'm really surprised. I think at this point in time, you lay your bet. I think if you run out on the track, you run out, right? But I don't know if I would have pitted.
I certainly don't know that I could have, Jared, just for the hopes of having enough to make it to the end. But one thing, you know exactly when you're going to run out. Now you can see these drivers here in this pack, they're obviously not going as fast as they possibly can. As you can see, the 11 car there getting in front of them.
Tony Solari's out. Tony Solari's out. McDaniel goes by. Brody Hanna to the lead. So this is going to be it. Watch Jeff Chandler. He is in this picture now, coming into turn 1. If these guys lose any time, he could be the winner here tonight. Zach McDaniel shoving Brody Hanna. White flag lap. There is Jeff Chandler back here. He has got about a half a second and gaining. I think this might be over for Brody Hanna. They are dropping to the apron. I think they are out of gas. Jeff Chandler through the middle. Troy Torgerson to the middle. Bill Benedict to the middle. Can Bill Benedict win this race? He has to win to get in. Coming off turn number 4, everybody spreads out. Torgerson high, Chandler high, and Jeff Chandler is going to win, followed by Torgerson, and Bill Benedict is not on the lead lap, so I apologize, but Jeff Chandler is going to win. Troy Torgerson and Dale Nearad comes home for third. What a dramatic finish to this race.
Dramatic finish, Jared. But unfortunate for those drivers who were just on the outside looking in. Now it comes down to points. It's going to be a completely different race. And I believe it's going to be John Helm and Wayne Grassi, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, Wayne Grassi is still not across the start finish line. There was a wreck at the end. We'll get a replay on that. Casey McMullen with heavy damage. And whoa, they're still on the track, still wrecking back here. Big wreck. But my goodness, we are going to get you the update as soon as possible. The race is still not completed, so we don't have official results. But right now, it is Jeff Chandler. We can tell you Jeff Chandler has won the event in dramatic last lap fashion. And Chris, I don't know what to say. My heart is thumping. That was an insane finish.
Wow. I certainly come down to the very last lap there with guys running out with 2 to go, with 1 to go. A lot of different strategies, but that one lap or one stop strategy just did not work here at the end.
And we're watching the replay of the end. There's Jeff Winter and Randy McCanny pushing Case McMullen, or pushing by Case McMullen. We got Mike Watts on the back of the 71 machine. The 14 and the 7, highlight those drivers because they are the driver. Oh, it looks like McMullen gets maybe pushed onto the apron. Lane Allen smashed around Lane, and he is still smashed around, wrecking. And we got Randy McCanny trying to go backwards across the line. So we got 4 or 5 damaged vehicles trying to get across the line. And I believe Lane Allen never got across the line. Where did Brian Helm finish out in this thing? Brian Helm 35th. I believe he is done. So Lane Allen 24th officially now. And we got Wayne Grossi 17th after that wreck. But that was about the craziest finish to the race because those drivers not up to speed trying to get everything they could get at the end. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to hear from the drivers in the playoffs and your top 3 finishers. All right, we are back live here at Daytona International Speedway, where Jeff Chandler wins on a dramatic last lap melee as we had drivers running out of fuel, drivers that were all over the place at the end there, a couple of incidents, but Jeff Chandler gets the win. Wayne Grossi and Lane Allen will grab the final 2 playoff spots, Chris.
That they will, and just by a mere 6 points, it looks like Lane Allen is able to get his way in. A hard-fought night for him.
Well, let's speak to those 2 drivers first. So let's, Chris, I believe you're down there with Lane Allen.
To your channel.
That I have. Lane Allen, you were able to make the playoffs here tonight just by virtue of 6 points. Take us through your race and how you were able to make it.
Oh, we wasn't going to try the one stopper. It was close for that, but couldn't quite do it. So we just had to go with the 2 stop and hope we stayed together and had a decent pit stop. And unfortunately, my second pit stop wasn't that good. I had to back up a little bit.
That you did. We saw that live.
We might have lost Chris there, Lane, but Lane, how are you feeling now that you made the playoffs? Do you feel like you can make a run here in the 14 team?
yeah, we're gonna give it a shot. Sure enough, I'm glad to be in.
Lane, you mentioned that pit stop where you just slid through your box just a little bit. You and Rachel Hunt both did that on the same at the same time there. That seemed to help you a little bit because it gave you someone to get off pit road with. But you were able to bring the car home 20th here. Is there anyone you'd like to shout out, give thanks to for that 14 machine that helps get you to and from the virtual track each week?
Oh yeah, FTSR, of course, best place to race. Darkmatter Designs, everybody here, all of y'all, good job in the booth.
Lane, next week we head to Darlington to start our playoff race. What can we expect out of this 14 bunch, and what's it going to take to be able to make it to the Champ 4?
Yeah, I like it at Darlington. Seem to do decent there. Just keep it off that wall.
Well, we'll be watching next week to see how you do. Jared, I think you've caught up with Wayne Grassi in the number 7 machine, the other driver, to point themselves into the race for the chase as well.
Yeah, I grabbed Wayne Grassi. Wayne, not the finish you're probably looking for, but it was enough. Congratulations on making the playoffs.
Al, thanks a lot. I can't believe I'm in it because I thought it was all over there.
Yeah, that race, I mean, at the end, you had the drivers that were staying out trying to do the one-stopper that included a couple drivers that were in position to win, to basically eliminate one of you guys right off the cuff. Kenneth Schultz, Kevin Rupert, all up in that front group. Then you look down, you're running back there 18th. You're right around Brian Helm. You're right around Lane Allen. It's kind of tit for tat through there. What did you think going into those final 5 laps and how this is going to turn out for the 7 team?
Yeah, I thought I had it, fine until that last lap wreck, and I ended up crashing before the start-finish line. I didn't know if I could make it back to the start-finish line, and I got back in the car and rolled it, across the line. But man, that was a bad wreck there.
It was, and that was what happens when you're going for it all at the end there. But you actually made it in. You're the way you're talking, you think it's close. You actually made it in by 18 points, so you actually did pretty well there. So you were well in the playoff contingency this year. But Wayne, looking ahead, you get in your first opportunity, everybody's first opportunity at the playoffs for a long time at least. How are you feeling going into Darlington and the rest of these playoffs now?
We had a great car at Darlington last time. I know the track has changed slightly. It's got less grip. But we had 2 cars in the top 5 on our team, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, Wayne, congratulations, and massive congratulations on surviving Daytona to make it into the playoffs. I'm going to turn it over to you and let you have the last word and shout out anybody you'd like to.
Well, thanks you guys for putting this on, and I really appreciate the broadcasts. They're great. I'd like to thank my team. These guys, I build the setups pretty much for the team, and then these guys have a lot of faith, and they go out there and they drive it, right or wrong. So I really appreciate them, and we have a great team. So thanks to them, and that's it.
All right, Chris, that was our last playoff driver, Wayne Grassi, making it in by 18 points over Brian Helm to get into the playoffs. I believe you caught up with third-place finisher Dale Nearad here tonight.
That I have. Dale Nearad led 29 laps, but brings the home the 03 car in the 3rd position. Dale, take us through your race here tonight.
Well, it's been a really nice race tonight. Really quiet, perhaps. We were thinking that on the last pit stop we would try to get the advantage with pitting with the least amount of time in the pit stall, try to get in front of them, but didn't work in the end. I got behind Torgensen and who else? That was Jeff, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Jeff in that 31 machine. Dale, 29 laps here, you led with your teammate in front of you. We saw a little bit of strategy there. He needed to be able to basically win, or at least be able to be in a good position for points here tonight, to be able to make it in. Was unable to do so. But what was the strategy thinking when you were catching up on the back of the 26 machine?
We were thinking, hoping for a caution once I get on his bumper so he can get around and get some fuel, everything, get all cozy again, head back out. See if we can try to get him back in contention, or at least in the pack. But there wasn't a caution, and we did what we could, try to get him. Yeah.
Well, next week we're heading to Darlington, the Lady in Black, a difficult track nonetheless for everyone involved. What is this 03 car going to bring to the track to help you get this thing into victory lane and start your playoffs with a bang?
Oh, Darlington, that's a fun track for me. Even though I did a little mishap on the turn 1 in the start of the race all the way to the back, I'm pretty sure I'm confident for a top 3 at least if I kept that momentum I had from the last race there.
Absolutely. We'll be looking forward. Is anyone you'd like to thank that helps get this 03 to and from the virtual track?
At first, I have to thank my sponsors, Dairy Queen, Rage Graphics, helping me out with all the playoffs and everything right now. I have to thank Speer's Motorsports, working real hard in the garage right now. Man, they do so good of a job. And I have to thank the FTSR for giving me this opportunity to race with some of the most cleanest drivers I've ever seen. I mean, Talladega with no cautions. Never heard of that one before. But really fun race with all the guys today.
Absolutely. Just fell a little bit short of the victory here tonight, but led laps here in this race, a caution-free race. Jared, I believe you've caught up with our second place, Troy Torgerson.
Yeah, I'm down here with the 98 machine, Troy Torgerson, on a brand new team and coming up home second here tonight. Congratulations, Troy.
Thanks a lot there, Jared.
Man, what a interesting last few laps. So the beginning of the race, it looked like you guys just kind of had your strategy. Was it two-stopper the whole way, or was there any debate that maybe you guys could stretch it on the one-stop?
We were calculated to go about 40 there on that first lap, but we figured if once the pit stops, we'd burn more fuel because there'd be less of a pack and somebody'd be out front or whatever. So we decided to make it a two-stopper.
Well, you're working there with Bill Benedict. Bill, needed a win to get in. Pit road issues for him. But there at the end, let's fast forward because, you guys were about 11 seconds behind the main group. Then all of a sudden, some of those drivers, they couldn't make it. Kevin Rupert comes to pit road. Kenneth Schultz comes to pit road. What was your thinking there with your team? Did you guys think that you could push forward to grab a win, regardless of those guys saving fuel or not?
We didn't know exactly where they were on fuel. We seen the first pit stop there. They were pitting at lap 40 or 41, somewhere in there. We thought they might be able to make it. But like I said earlier, I think running in the smaller packs like they did, they burn more fuel that way. And we rolled the dice when we made the second stop, and we were hoping that it was going to be the winning move.
Well, you guys grabbed the win second here tonight. But Troy, looking ahead, and I've already talked to you this week about your playoff opportunities, but you just looking at Darlington in particular, how are you feeling going into that race? Locked in the playoffs, second place overall in the playoff points. How are you feeling about that? Just 1 point difference between you and Bobby, so all that deficit that you had in the regular season erased.
Yeah, we're going to go out there and try to win each one of these things, and we got to keep it off the wall there and keep the car clean and hopefully be there at the end to make a run at it.
Well, Troy, congratulations on the runner-up here tonight. I'm going to turn the mic over to you and let you have the last word.
Yeah, Jared, I got to thank I got a new team this week. We worked really hard. We ran really good. We had really good tonight. We had, thank Bill and trying to push him to the front there. And unfortunately, we had a little hiccup on pit road there. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to what's moving forward here. Now I got to thank you and Chris for broadcasting these things every week. You guys do a really good job, and glad the plate racing's done. Thank FTSR, Brody, and for putting on a heck of a league, and Darkmatter Designs for sponsoring it. And it's a lot of fun over here.
All right, Chris, that was our runner-up, Troy Torgerson, grabbing second place. He'll be second in the points as the playoffs begin. And I believe you've caught up with race winner, Mr. Jeff Chandler.
Jeff Chandler adds another win to his belt And Jeff, you were able to do it by leading one lap here tonight, the last one. Take us through your race and what you were thinking with those closing laps.
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody's more surprised than me being here because, you know, we had an alliance with GTP, and you know, our what we were trying to do is push Bill to the win. And on that last pit stop, he ran over the cone and, you know, got a black flag, so that took him out. So we just really didn't have a plan after that. Just we got out ahead of Randy and Jeff, and so Troy just pushed. And I couldn't believe it. In fact, when I crossed the start finish line, I had my fuel relative. I didn't have relative up. I had my fuel gauge up, or my fuel, and I was running out of gas as soon as I started past the start finish line. I couldn't even make it back around. I was out of gas.
No burnouts for the 31 machine here tonight. Now, Jeff, you're talking about pushing or hoping to push your teammate to the win. When you came out and you saw those drivers in front of you, you had about an 11-second gap between you and I believe it was Brody Hanna in the 23 machine. What was going through your mind there? Were you worried at all that they were going to be able to make it to the end?
Oh yeah, I didn't think there was a chance in hell we were going to catch them because, you know, I figured they had conserved enough fuel that I knew they would make it. You know, I assumed they did one pit stop is what I'm assuming, but you know, we got to a point there and we were catching them a little quicker than I think we should have since they had more cars in their pack. And I said to the guys, I'm like, they're conserving. You know, we shouldn't be catching them this fast. So it was just like hammer down and see what we could do. And like I said, I honestly thought when I came out of 4, I was racing Bernie for the win. And that's why I kind of, you know, squeezed them a little bit, trying to take a little air from them and all. I had no idea that they were a lap down. I had no idea.
Absolutely. Looking ahead, playoffs start next week at Darlington. You're in a little bit of an unusual position with the 31 team as you're not in the playoffs due to your work schedule. But how does that change the way that you race going forward?
Well, it's not going to change a whole lot. I won't be at Darlington. I can't take off another day of work for this. So I'll definitely not be at Darlington. But the guys will be prepared. And from here on out, I'm going to do whatever we need to do to. I mean, that's ethical. I mean, I'm not going to do anything like give up a win or give up a position, you know. But we're going to do whatever we can do to get the guys that are in the playoffs. Help them win a championship. That's my first goal.
And absolutely to be expected to help those teammates whenever you can, within reason, of course. Now, Jeff, is there anyone you'd like to thank that helps get this number 31 machine to the track each week?
Yeah, absolutely. Same old. Frontline Esports. Thanks to those guys. The addition of Troy and Kurt has been tremendous. You know, just incredibly happy to have Kurt in the role he's in, and Troy. I mean, I don't have to say enough about him, but we worked really hard. The Dan Shamoon and the guys back in Frontline busted butt to get this Daytona set up, you know, as good as we could get it. And Judd Danielson of Abruzzi Racewear, we appreciate everything he does for us. Doyle Lawrence, Raven Graphics, best painter out there in my book. Thanks to Darkmatter Designs for sponsoring our series. Full Throttle TV, you know, I love you guys. Appreciate you both, Jared and Chris. And to the best league out there, FTSR. Just love running here.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing you the next chance we get, but expect those Frontline Esports drivers to be just as competitive next week as we would anywhere. Congrats on the win.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you.
Jared, it's all over here at Daytona, a huge race for a lot of different drivers, and really the theme to this race ended up being driver mistakes.
It did. Driver mistakes for all kinds of different reasons. We saw some drivers at the beginning get down on pit road. Dean Doucette dominated the opening stanza of this race. He's the driver that unfortunately comes out with the penalty there at the beginning. We had some drivers hit the cone. We had some drivers part of that second group that missed pit road and all kinds of stuff going on there. But that was entertaining. Then we had the guys that elected to do the one stop. What a gamble for those drivers. I mean, my goodness. Brody Hanna and Tony Solari and those drivers electing to go out. And then you had Kevin Rupert, Kenneth Schultz. They were looking like they might sneak into the playoffs. They would have been in with a win. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. I mean, what more can you ask on a season-deciding race? As you see on the screen, there's your playoffs. The top 16 are in. Brian Helm misses by 6 points. Andrew Poliski also out of there as well. So a tough night for those drivers, but we will have all the playoff action coming up at Darlington. Chris, how are we gonna top Daytona as we head to the playoffs?
Oh, you think the intensity was there tonight? Next week, we're going to see it. These drivers in the playoffs, all 16 of them, they want one thing next week. That's to end up in victory lane. Only one will do it, and we'll have to see exactly who next week.
Yeah, we sure will, and we'll have all the action on Full Throttle TV. You don't want to miss it. We will be back next Monday night with the Darkmatter Designs playoff opener at Darlington for the Southern 250 right here on Full Throttle Sim Racing. But before that, we'll have Kickin' Asphalt tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Check those guys out. We'll also have the Blackwater Products Truck Series kicking off their playoffs from Full Throttle Sim Racing on Wednesday night from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But that's going to do it here tonight. For Chris Speer, for Daytona, for Full Throttle Sim Racing, I'm Jared Carr. We will see you guys out on the track.